Bam, we're live. What's up, David? Bam, Heidi. Did I send Brian Friend a link? I believe I did. Guys, we are going to talk about Brian Friend's picks today that was released in the morning chalk up, choosing who he thinks going into the 2022 season are the big dogs. I think he called it his power list. I want to tell you that these two lists are separated by sex, male and female. Sex is determined when you look down at your crotch. Wow, look at that mustache. When you look down at your crotch, and if you have a penis, you're a boy, and if you have a vagina, you're a girl. And that's it. That's how these lists are going to be categorized. Now, I have not seen the penises of any of these athletes or the vaginas, but I'm going based on presuppositions. I know I'm not a big fan of presuppositions, but in this event, I'd like to come clean and tell you that is what I'm doing.
Are we having Ed Kelder on again?
It does look like it. What's up, buddy? Are you in a fucking witness? Brian, are you in a witness protection program?
Hold on. Okay, that should be better. What?
What did you do? Put a little wax? Why'd you say hold on? You had to put a little wax in your mustache? Wax?
No, I just wanted to change the audio settings.
It sounds like Jason Khalipa will be coming on in 30. Caleb will be running the back end today. Caleb, bye. Okay. Hi.
Hey.
It's been a while. I'm excited for your list.
Oh, okay.
I read the Morning Chalk Up article. Good article. Fun stuff. The two standouts to me, we'll get to them. Caleb, can we put the article up so people who want to read the article, and at some point, I think we're gonna check out some of the comments that people made, critical and supportive, constructively critical, regarding Brian's list. It's an emotional thing, huh, Brian?
What's that?
For people to see that list, people in the community, coaches, family, friends.
Sure. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
They're like, what? How can Justin be at the top? Have you not seen Dallin Pepper's press?
Yeah.
Pepper, that's my guy. That's the guy that's going to ruin. I think he's going to ruin someone's games this year.
Yeah. Dallin's amazing. I think that he, easily could have been at the games last year. And likely would have made the top 20 if he'd advanced to the semifinal stage. And I think that that's certainly in the realm of possibility this year for him.
There are these athletes out there, and this is going to sound really weird, and I know it's a shortcut, but if they get good, if they fix something, and they're the ones that have the most potential for growth, and that's why I say Dallin Pepper. If he were to make a 10% jump, I know he looks like a man, but he's a fucking boy in a man's body. If that dude makes a 10% jump, it's fucking game on. He catapults to the fucking top. Same with Lazar Jukic. If he fixes one or two things, and Lazar will. I know you already have him in a good spot on the list, but there's these people there that you're just like, oh shit, you're so young and you're already so good.
Yeah, I think one of the hardest things that I ran into creating this was we're right at kind of the crossroads intersection. I think this will probably continue to be the case going forward for the most part, where there's a young contingency of really talented athletes on both the men's and women's side that are making a push towards the top, and yet some of the old guard, so to speak, are still very, very good and hard to beat. And so it's hard to say how much longer guys like Vellner and Fikowski and BKG can stay in the top 5 of the sport, or if guys like Malheiros and Lazar Jukic and Dallin Pepper and a bunch of others can make a push in and force them out for good.
Yeah, and you have to wonder with the programming being done by Adrian Bosman this year instead of Dave Castro, how that will affect the results.
Well, I think
you're not going to bite. You're not going to bite.
No, there certainly is a big question mark surrounding the programming this year with Dave not doing it for the first time ever. I want to believe that it'll still be a really good test. I think that Chase and Bill have gone through every event that Dave's programmed as part of the CrossFit Games season, whether it be the Open each year, the regionals, or the games, and there's a lot of good, but there's certainly critiques every year as well. And, I don't think Dave would shy away from that. I think he would just say, yeah, we're always trying to get better. And hopefully whoever's doing it this year has the same mentality.
You said Chase and Bill, Chase Ingram and Bill Grundler, they have a podcast called
Get with the Programming.
Get with the Programming. And they have gone through every workout.
It's awesome.
Wow.
Well, they do it. So they'll say, they'll do the Open for 2011, and they'll talk through each of the workouts. They share some stories of their experiences with them. They talk about what the workout entailed from a time domain movement perspective. Is it a couplet, triplet, chipper, et cetera? And then at the end of the Open for that year, they'll say, okay, how was the programming? Was this a good test? And they're very specific. So they acknowledge that the Open is testing something different than the Games is testing or than Regionals is testing. But they've done it for every Open, every Regionals, and every Games, and several off-season competitions.
Caleb, sorry, you might be faster than me. Can you pull that up, their podcast, Get with the Program? Hey, just real quick, I don't want to get stuck on it, but is this something they started back in forever ago and they just do it once a year? Or you're saying that recently they went through all of them? In
the past couple of years. Yeah, I think they started with the Games, and then they might have done I can't remember if they did the Open or Regionals first, but they've done them all.
Yeah, bitching. All right, cool.
And if you're someone who likes programming, likes to be analytical of programming, does programming for competitions in any capacity, it's a great resource because they point you first of all to I think it's in the level 2 CrossFit manuscript where it talks about, how to program, a balanced test and what are some of the things you should consider, so if that's something that's interesting you weren't aware of it, great resource to check out for that.
And that's those are two former Games athletes. It's not like Brian and I. Brian is a student of the game, and I'm just leveraging you fuckers for follows. Okay, so shall we do the men or the women first?
Up to you.
I say we do. Did you see the guy I had on this morning?
No.
He eats raw. He's been eating raw meat for 100 days.
And
I don't know. I ate a half pound of hamburger beef this morning on the show. It was easy. It was like nothing. My freak out level was probably an 8, and it was like as it went in, I had no gag reflex or anything. It was nuts. Okay,
you're saving the other half for tonight.
No, I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this. So I came home after taking the kids out to the beach, and my wife had it in a bowl mixed with avocado, salt, and I think some lemon juice or something, and she was eating it. I'm like, damn.
I don't see why you get in trouble for that.
I don't know. She might not want people to know that she's fucking a bandwagon jumper like me. I'm going to have that guy back on in 100 days. He had
I would not consider yourself or your wife a bandwagon jumper. I think that she's probably someone who, very educated and values experience. So she wanted to try it.
Wow. It was dignified of you. All right.
I haven't ever met your wife, but I know that she's the best of the family over there.
Thank you. That I cannot confirm or deny. My mom's pretty cool too, but yeah, my wife's top.
I just meant between you and her.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, let's do this. Let's do the men. Is that who you said? The men?
No, but I was kind of hoping you'd say the men, so that's
okay.
Great.
Let's do the men. Yeah, I like to save the best for last. Of these, do you want to start or do you want me just to dig in?
I think you just lead, and I'm prepared to answer any question.
Okay, of these, I think the most difficult to put in there. Wow, man. Oh, God, it's tough. Which one is the most difficult to put in there? I mean, how do you put Jonne Koski in there? I mean, I know he's great. Don't get me wrong. He's great, but he's so unpredictable, isn't he? Isn't there no consistency?
Sure. I would say the main question marks.
I mean, he's Europe's Cole Sager, isn't he?
No, I don't know.
That was good.
It's not a bad comparison. Jonne Koski is, he's kind of a unique guy because he's still pretty young. He's not very much older, maybe a year older than Lazar Jukic, but he has 7 years of games experiencing dating back to 2014. He's just been doing this a really long time. Obviously, the biggest problem for Jonne Koski this year is if he can recover from his shoulder surgery that he had, I think in September, that precluded him from participating in any of the off-season competitions. So there's a great deal that we don't know about him. And I even acknowledge in the article, if you think that it was, unjust to put him up there that high because of the fact that he's recovering from shoulder surgery, I'm not going to disagree with you. I just so many times, not just in CrossFit, in the past, 5 to 10 years, really, a host of athletes across many sports have recovered from injuries in a shorter time domain than we ever thought was possible. And Jonne Koski's had plenty of injuries himself over the course of his career, and he always seems to bounce back pretty well. I think it was to his advantage that he didn't do any off-season competitions this year, and hopefully he's able to have a good recovery without any setbacks. But obviously that might not happen, and part of the thing I want to say off the bat is this is a preseason power rankings. This is not a predictions for the games for 2022. So this is going into the open. These are the 10 guys that I think, and the 10 women that I think are, the people that you're going to need to beat in order if you want to win the CrossFit Games. But after the quarterfinals, we'll reevaluate, and I'll probably have a different list. And that happens in every sport, right? Every year, every week of the NFL, there's a new power ranking, or for MLB, NBA, NHL, and it's just reevaluating with more information. So with the information I have right now, I think Jonne Koski can recover from this. And if he does, he seems to be a lock for the top 10 at the games.
Would it be fair to say that you think that if the games happened tomorrow, this would be the top 10 guys?
No,
that's not. You can't even say that.
No, because Jonne Koski wouldn't be ready.
Okay.
Recovering from his injury. Brooke Wells wouldn't be ready. There'd be no chance. And it might come that by April, following the quarterfinals, or June following the semifinals, that we see that they didn't recover in time and they didn't make it, and we miss out on seeing them at the games this year. That's obviously a possibility, but I have reason to believe that they'll both will recover and will be able to compete, and probably their season will look something like Annie Thorsdotter's from last year, where it starts with so open, just kind of getting your feet wet. Same thing with quarterfinals. Hopefully they're good enough by the semifinals, but they're ultimately, not really back to full competition form until the games.
The three guys that are obviously just the glaring guys missing from the list are Noah, Travis, and Chandler. Is that fair?
I would say that the one guy who's obviously notable missing from the list is Noah. And that's, and I was actually kind of surprised I didn't get as much there were other things that drew people's attention more than Noah's omission from this list, but that was probably the hardest male for me to leave off, and there was probably 2 women that was really difficult for me to leave off. And I'm not, the thing is, Noah didn't do any individual off-season competitions this year. He had a 10th place kind of really lackluster, nothing that impressive or standoutish performance at the games. I think it was his worst games performance in quite some time. Yes, since 2016. Obviously,
what did he place at the games in 2021?
He was 10th. And so if you were just going to take, the last year's top 10 and put them in there, he'd be there. However, we have, obviously 2 guys on this list that did not compete at the games last year. So 2 people had to be bumped out.
Is that the top 10 from the games last year, but 2 people have been pushed out by Roman and Ricky? Is that what you're saying?
There are 8 of the top 10 on this list. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Not necessarily in the exact order that they finished, but they're on this list.
Wow. So it is pretty hard to argue with this list. That's a pretty safe thing. That makes it pretty safe. I want to go back to Jonne Koski one real quick. Is there anyone, I'm not even sure how to frame this. Is there anyone who you would say is more likely to win an event at the CrossFit Games? If you had to bet that one guy was going to win one event and to choose the event, isn't Jonne Koski that guy? Of all these guys, he's guaranteed to win, or does Guy fall in that category too?
I think that if you asked the athletes, they would acknowledge that on the swimming event, it's Jonne Koski's to lose for sure.
I mean he's the Tia of swimming events, right?
Yeah, and even Lazar Djukic is a phenomenal swimmer. He wasn't close to Jonne on that event, but there was a huge, paddleboard component. I think that Jonne's, if you're going to bet on one person to win one event, Jonne on the swim event is a good bet. But I think if you ask the athletes and I think Tommy and Patrick and I talked about this on the morning chalk up. There are just certain events.
Patrick Clark.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Tommy Marquez. I think that there are just certain events that once they roll out, everyone's like, yeah, we're not touching Roman on that. And specifically, that's something that would be, especially like a monostructural rowing event or something.
Well, now he has a problem.
He does?
Yeah. He got Ricky. He got the Ricky problem.
Right? So we saw, when it comes to running or, kind of event, Ricky is phenomenal. But when it comes to pure machine work, I know Jason Hopper has a nickname, the Machine, so it'll be hopefully fun to see him go against Roman on some of these workouts. I still think Roman's the guy to beat on machine workouts.
Are any of these athletes on your top 10 waning in their skill set? Are any of them past their prime?
That's a really difficult question. I would say the only candidates for potentially being past their prime are probably Vellner, Fikowski, and BKG, just because of longevity. They've been doing it and age. However, they kind of seem to just be getting better. Like the quality of the field is getting better, and they were all still right there last year. So I'm tempted to say no.
And right. And I think that's fair because it's really an unfair question. I'm kind of setting them up for failure because they've been around so long that of course it's those guys. Of course, Patrick has nowhere to go but down. Fikowski has nowhere to go but down. BKG. I mean, they're
I
the top
disagree
dogs.
with that.
No. Okay.
Because I think that both Vellner and Fikowski still have this season the potential to win the games. And that would obviously be a step up.
Okay. So I missed. Sorry, I agree with you. I'm not hitting it right. They have nowhere to go but down. They have more room below them than they do above them. I guess
by a wide margin.
By a wide margin is what I'm saying. Yeah. The odds are, if you were betting, that those would be the waning guys. So it's kind of by a long shot. Like we know, Guy's not waning, like 100%.
Well, Guy's an interesting one, and this was, and basically at the end of the day, I was trying to decide between Guy and Noah for the 10th spot.
Ooh,
and I thought that at the end of the games last year, I kind of thought that 7th place finish that Guy had might end up being his best ever finish at the games. But he's super young, he's super strong, and he's got this like incredible skill set that you really can't teach. And I think the best thing he has going for him is the environment that he's chosen to put himself in. We don't have to spend very much time talking about the caliber athletes that people who spend time hanging out at Mayhem has produced over the years. So, if he can maintain that capacity to win events in specific things, and then consistently improve across the board on some of the other stuff, which I really, really would be shocked if he doesn't show tremendous improvement in terms of his aerobic development this season. It's not out of the realm of possibility to see a guy like that win the games eventually. So I'm not too sure what the trajectory of Guy's career will be from here, but I kind of thought that his upside outweighed Noah's, and so I ended up putting him 10th.
Whose problems are harder to fix? Guy's, Ricky's, or Lazar's, or Jonne Koski's? I skipped right over Saxon. I don't think Saxon has any problems. He just has to move the needle on everything up a little bit, right?
Yeah, really small amount.
Yeah. But these other guys have holes in their game, right? Relative to the pack, of course.
Right. Yeah. Well, everything's got to be relative. Yeah. Any one of them on their own against.
I mean, Jonne Koski's had a long time to fix his shit.
Yeah. And I think that, I think that part of the problem for a guy like him, and there are several other guys like this, is, it's a really difficult sport to know how to navigate. And he's, like I said, he started doing it, he first showed up at the games in 2014, where obviously there's a lot more known now. There's a lot more invested now in terms of coaches and, body workers and whatever that can help managers make decisions about how to manage a career. But for a long time, these guys want to compete, and they're used to training not feeling at 100% because of how difficult their training is. So I think that Jonne is one of these guys who's competed injured a lot, not just at the games, but in off-season competitions. And that the problem with that is you just get stuck in a plateau. and it's hard to make that next jump up. And I think the counter example of that is Brent Fikowski, who's been cerebral enough and patient enough to take full seasons off, to only compete once a year in a competition he doesn't have to compete it as part of the game season. And that's why we've seen him elevate later and later in his career.
Did he have any holes? Did he have, I mean, by holes, I mean, did he have any imbalances? Like we see Guy show up and he's just smashing the short time domains and the heavy lifts, or was Fikowski came in a little more balanced?
Well, came in like at the start of his career.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Fikowski's always been battling the length of his limbs, really. So the gymnastics is super hard for him, but I really think that he's probably like the most efficient gymnastics mover in the sport, and that's what allows him to stay competitive at that height and weight. But it's still not enough to make up the 7 inches or 8 inches taller he is than Noah Ohlsen.
Wow, Fikowski's 6'2".
I think he's 6'2" or 3", and I think Noah's like 5'7".
Yeah, that would make him. Let's say he's 6'3", just for the fun. That would make him 11 inches taller than Mr. Mertens.
Okay.
It's like almost a whole penis. Okay. Is there what was your biggest criticism on this from the peanut gallery?
On the men's side?
Yeah, on the men's side. and was there, wait, let me ask you this though before we start. Were there any comments that you're like, oh shit, yep, that guy's that they're onto something. They sniffed something out.
It's funny you ask that. I was spent a lot of time to I read all the comments today, at least until maybe an hour ago. And what does that one say? Oh yes, Travis. Yeah, I actually texted Travis after that, and I said, "You don't like my rankings?" And he goes, "I never like your rankings."
That's a good dude, Travis. You're a good dude. You're a good dude.
And that's good, and that's fine. I heard from a couple of the other athletes and told me, you're making a lot of people angry. And I said, angry or motivated? And he goes, motivated for me. Yeah, Roman said he doesn't know what he's talking about. And actually, the most comments for the men's side I saw were about Roman and Ricky not being high enough.
I to be honest, it's crazy to put a little bit crazy to put Roman and Ricky on the list, in my opinion. But then again, look what Annie did last year.
I don't think it's crazy to put them on the list at all. I mean,
they're so unknown. Like, Travis is going to bring it. Noah is going to bring it. We're still not sure what's going to happen. I mean, we think we know, right?
Yeah. I mean, we can,
Does anyone ever not translate before I say that? We don't know. Does anyone ever just destroy? Like, have you ever seen someone just go through and destroy everything and then not do top 10 at the games? Like, who fell most flat at the games ever in the history of the games that you're like, what the fuck? Is there someone that stands out?
Look, there's a pretty high correlate between winning especially winning your regional or semifinal and then doing very well at the games. But even just last year, we saw Jason Hopper dominate a semifinal full of really good athletes, including Travis and Justin Medeiros and Scott Panchik, and then finish 18th or 19th at the games.
Shit the bed at the games. And Travis won the quarterfinals last year.
And Travis won the quarterfinals. I think he took 4th in his semifinal and then finished 12th at the games. Yeah, so it's certainly possible that there's guys that can do really well at a Wodapalooza and struggle in the game setting. Like, that's not out of the realm of possibility. But more likely, they just won't get to the games. Like, you saw Dakota Rager and Drew Wayman finish in the top 5 at Wodapalooza one year, and they've never made the games as an individual. So,
and we've never seen Roman do 13 to 16 events.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So, and honestly, I was pretty tempted to flip Roman with BKG and move him into the 4 spot, which I heard from plenty of people today who thought that might have been appropriate. But, there is a question mark around Roman, and it's just simply that we have not seen him compete live at the games. And the games, whether you care to admit it or not, is a different beast than all those other competitions. It is the pinnacle event. It's generally the most events in a course of one competition. It's everyone in the world coming together and basically peaking for the same thing at the same time and going after the same goal. And I don't really have anything based on what I've seen from him that would make me suggest that he's going to, have a bad performance at the games. But the 4 guys ahead of him have proven to be incredibly consistent and proficient at the games year after year.
I like that card, by the way Morning Chalk Up did that.
Oh yeah, Katie Gannon did that. She did a great job.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. I keep thinking, I go, where's Justin? Where's Justin? And I'm like, what the fuck you mean, where's Justin? He's staring right at you. Who else? Brian, which comment in here? Sorry, I keep derailing you and running you off in different directions. Which comment on here you were saying I was asking which comment made you go, maybe they're right. Any of them in here?
So it wasn't necessarily one comment, but every time that someone puts a question up there or puts their opinion and it's a little bit different, I give it some thought. And I actually identified one, this is kind of a vulnerable thing to do. I kind of identified one bias in my rankings, which is that when the 2019 result was favorable for an athlete, I mentioned it. And when it was a poor result, I omitted it.
Wait, I'm not sure I understand that. Meaning like you celebrated.
So for example, one of the, I think I mentioned in here, or maybe I didn't even mention it. Oh, but I might talk about how Saxon Panchik did well in 2019, but and so it's part of like a credential that could give him status on this list. But I omit talking about how Brent Fikowski did poorly in 2019 because it detracts from his case for being third overall. But that's because I've spent a lot of time talking about the different formats from 2019 and 2020, and there were some people either DM'd me or commented about it's so weird that Vellner had such good years 16, 17, 18, and then was so bad in 19, 20, and now he's back. And it's like he wasn't so bad in 19 and 20. The format was bad, and he was injured. That's all.
Are they insinuating drug use with that?
No, they're just saying that it's strange that he would go whatever he was, fourth, second, fourth, and then have a ninth and 16th and 9th, and then all of a sudden be second again. Like what happened? Nothing happened.
Yeah, but their shit's just wrong.
If that's what you see, if you just go to his games profile and you're like fourth, second, fourth, 16th, 9th, second, what happened in 2019 and 2020, and you don't know what happened, it looks weird. Right.
And what did happen was there was a cut one year, and then in another year was a pandemic year, and the appropriate build up to the games was not there.
Not possible, right?
And so there was a lack of consistency in how the athletes were chosen.
Relative to other years,
yeah. Roman gaps the field in the smaller events that the same top people have done, or similar events can easily be close to top guys like Medeiros, but with more home run power. I'm not sure I don't understand that. You want to explain that to me? And thank you for the $10. And
I think
yoked.
Romans is a very scary competitor, I think, for the the podium, the real, like the guys that are really podium threats at the games, because he can win events, and everyone knows that. And you saw what happened with Guy last year. Wins 3 events and winds up 7th overall. Like that, winning 3 events of the games goes a really long way, but it's really hard to do. I think I wrote in this article that Fikowski won 4 events in 2016. Since then, he's won 3 total. So it's hard to string together that many event wins in a year. But when you can do it, it's almost if you're going to win 3 events at the games, you're almost definitely going to finish top 5. Like it's hard not to.
Will you go back? Sorry, Caleb. Will you take us back to that list of people? I want to make sure there's not anyone I didn't touch on. Have you talked to any of these people, by the way, recently in the last week or two that influenced your opinion? Like where you spoke on the phone with them, or you spoke on the phone with their coaches and you were like, okay, like someone like Guy or like someone like Saxon, like, do you know what they're up to?
I do know what they're up to for the most part, but I didn't talk to them. No.
Just from word of mouth.
Yeah. And, just friends and colleagues and stuff in the space. And there's actually some pretty interesting information about some people on this list and some changes that they've made this offseason. But overall, it doesn't really affect this type of a thing.
Well, it will affect it on the women's side. There's 2 women in particular that it's like I'm very curious how much insight you have into them. I kind of can't believe that they're on the list.
There's a couple women that are off the list that most people had a hard time with too.
Are there any other comments? Anything else you want to point out before we move on to the females?
I think the men's was less controversial overall than the women's. A lot of people wanted to see Roman and Ricky higher. I feel really good about their rankings there, based on the smaller data sets that we have against this level of competition. But, they certainly will have to prove this year that this is actually where they belong in this type of top 10 conversation. And then, it was, it was even hard. I listed 5 or 6 notable omissions from the list. And even that was really difficult to do.
I'd love to see who the next 10 are. Specifically, is Travis? Where's Travis on this list?
On the narrowly missed the list for the men, I included in this is just in alphabetical order: Alexander Caron, who just got second at Wadapalooza; Alex Vigno, who was 8th last year at the games; Cole Sager, Jeff Adler, Noah Ohlsen, Sam Cornway, and Travis Mayer. So those are like kind of the next guys right outside. But even besides that, and
you said Noah's probably 11th, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that. And then, you still have like the Jason Hopper. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility for Hopper to improve tremendously throughout the course of this year under, the HWPO programming and tutelage from Fraser and be a top 10 threat. But right now, I couldn't see ranking him any higher than any of those guys, the 10 or the other ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 that I mentioned as the next ones out. And now you start thinking about a guy like Dallin Pepper and a guy like maybe Phil Toon that are not included in that top even 17 and say like, well, wow, it's like those guys are incredible, but it's really hard. Like, it's really hard to break into the top 10, the top 15, the top 20 at the games. And you say, what about Chandler Smith? I mean, Chandler didn't make the top 20 at the games last year, and I've already mentioned 20 guys, and Chandler's not one of them. Is he one of the 20 fittest on earth? Maybe. But what I'm saying is it's getting harder and harder to make it into that group.
And there's these guys that have had, like I said about Jonne Koski, and Chandler Smith is probably approaching that time too, that like, hey, you've had a long time to tweak shit. Like Chandler Smith, how many years has he been doing this now?
2016 was that year that he broke onto the regionals and raced with Ben Smith on that deadlift workout.
Okay. So I mean, not nearly. And how long has Travis Mayer been going at it?
Longer than that.
Yeah.
Like a decade. But and the other thing about Chandler Smith is, and we don't know, like he'll have it looks like he's committed to staying with the comp train crew up there in New England. They've got a very different makeup than they've had in the past. Amanda's up there. They brought in a couple new women. Sydney McAlishan moved out there and is training with them.
Wow.
And maybe a full year there in a consistent environment where he's the Army stuff is behind him. The traveling all the time is behind him. The training with a variety of different people is behind him. It is possible that this could be a year that he has more consistency, less kind of chaos in his life, and can actually maybe make a push for his best games performance. I
was at Ben Bergeron's Instagram today, and I saw that they're now training with masks off. So that should probably help Chandler's training too. That he doesn't have to like cover his nose and his mouth. So that's good. Do you think Colton Mertens will make it to the games?
I think it's going to be tough. I mean, I think that even though he's probably getting better, the North American field is going to be really difficult. And if the Canadian men do get distributed and don't all have to compete with themselves, that that'll definitely. I think on average for men in North America, it's like 75% that made it the year before make it back, which means 25% don't. So I wouldn't be surprised if he missed out this year.
When do we find out when the semifinal workouts are? Those two that HQ is supposedly going to program.
I mean,
we don't know.
I have no idea. My guess would be
just prior.
Yeah, a week or two before the first week.
Okay. What do you think about the? I know this is a little off subject, but these are things that I've been learning this week. There are two fantastic semifinals in the same venue in Knoxville, Tennessee, hour and a half south, I believe, of Nashville by car. Has that ever happened before? Two semifinals in the same town, same venue, two regionals?
I don't think so.
I mean, it's a great spot. Part of me is like, well, that's weird. Well, but really, it's an epic spot, right? It's right there, and it's in a good spot in the country. Have you been to either of those? One of those was the MACC, right? No, wait. What are those two that are there?
Yeah, the first week will be the Syndicate crown.
Okay.
Syndicate crown, this one. And then
You're good, Caleb. You're
the
good.
second one will be the MACC. Yeah. And I went to the MACC in 2019, I think. But it was, it was in Maryland, totally different location and venue, but same team that's putting it together. And they're very organized, very experienced, and very capable of running these two events in back-to-back weeks.
So you like this?
Yeah, I spoke about this on some other show. I think that it was going to be difficult for. I think it was with you actually. It was going to be difficult for CrossFit to find someone who could put on this caliber of competition, find a venue and host it, and get a broadcast that's respectable enough to distribute to the world in a small amount of time. And so, reaching out to someone who's already doing it, already knows how to do it, and has proven that they can do it, and has all those relationships with the broadcast team, with the judges team, with a city that they can talk about what it looks like to host that, make hotel accommodations. There's a ton of different areas that are required to plan an event like that. So going with an experienced team makes sense.
And it's Wilson, right? Wilson Pack? Wilson Pack. That was the guy you roomed with. We saw him shirtless in one of our live shows.
Mm-hmm.
Crossing behind you. Where was that? Was that Wadapalooza?
Yeah, also roomed with him at the games this year.
I don't think I saw him topless there.
I don't think so.
All right. Okay. Well, that's interesting. If you live in Knoxville or Nashville, if you're in Tennessee, you're stoked. You can go to both those events. Or if if you don't have kids or you fucking have a free life, you can just go over there and hang out for 10 days and hit both those events. Hopper will be at one of those events, right? What are some of the big names that go to that one? Or we don't know?
No. We have no idea. We don't know really anything about how the athletes will be seeded going into semifinals for North America or Europe.
And that is also making the assumption that he makes it. Anything can happen.
Sure.
I mean, we really do.
I mean, if he does the quarterfinals, the open quarterfinals, he'll make it to semifinals.
But we know that the open programming is Dave's. We don't know who the quarterfinals programming is.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Let's check out the girls.
Don't you think you should just say them in order? You should have done that before for the people listening.
Oh, like the people at home who don't watch the show?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could do that. You want to go back to the men real quick? Number 1, Justin Medeiros. Number 2, Patrick Vellner. Number 3, Brent Fikowski. Number 4, Bjorgvin Carl Gudmundsson. Number 5, Roman Khrennikov. Number 6, Jonne Koski. Number 7, Saxon Panchik. Number 8, Lazar Jukic. Number 9, Ricky Garard. And number 10, Guilherme Malheiros. What do you think about that last one? Thank you. It's a lot coming from you.
That was the most impressive athlete pronunciation minus Ricky's last name that you've ever had.
Oh, well, what would you say, Garard?
I just think you tried too hard on it.
Yeah, I did. I was trying to fucking show that I'm my Latinx roots. Great. This is going to be fun. Number 1, Tia-Clair Toomey. Tia-Clair Toomey. Is that her name? Tia-Clair?
Mm-hmm.
Tia-Clair Toomey. But no or yet. I wonder if she's going to change
it. It is Tia-Clair Toomey or is her. I think it's her legal name now.
Okay. Tia-Clair Toomey or Laura Horvath, Haley Adams. Number 4, Gabriela Migala. Number 5, Cara Saunders. Number 6, Mallory O'Brien. Number 7, Bethany Shadburne. Number 8, Katrin Davidsdotter. Number 9, Amanda Barnhart. Number 10, Brooke Wells. What are Katrin and Brooke doing on this list? Unacceptable.
Is it unacceptable?
I don't know. You must know something. I mean,
well, this is what I know.
Katrin's in a tail. I mean, did you watch the Rogue Invitational?
She always does terrible at Rogue.
Oh, okay.
Her Rogue Invitational performances, 2021. This past year, she was 15th. 2020, she was 13th out of 17. And yeah. And
do you think
the first year of Rogue, which was it was a live competition, she did well. She was 4th that year.
How did she do at the games last year?
10th.
I'm going to predict that Katrin Davidsdotter doesn't even complete the games this year. I'm going to predict that she doesn't finish the games this year. It's that year. It's the Katie. What happened to Katie Motter? That was the first. I think that was one of the first times I saw that. Katie Motter did the hill sprint in 2000.
There's nothing outside of just a gut feeling that warrants that prediction.
Yeah, but no, it's more than a gut feeling. It's more than a gut feeling. There's something weird about her going back to Iceland.
I don't think there's anything weird about it at all. I think that it's amazing for her. I think she spent 7 years away from her family and friends and country.
Yes, I agree. I agree with both those.
And that she's going back home. And now the only thing, unless you're referring to the fact that like maybe she's trying to start a family or get pregnant, and that might be the weird thing. Maybe, I don't know.
No, that's not weird. But is that what you're saying? Is she doing that?
I don't think so. I think she's very focused on competing. I think she's very happy where she is. I think she's peaceful. I think she's happy with her love life right now. I think that that she will outperform herself from last year, despite the fact that the women's field will be more difficult this year than it was last year.
Well, I think the odds are really stacked against her. I think she's in the waning of her career. I think something has happened to her headspace. I don't know. I do not know what it is. She did not look like herself at Rogue. I'll give you the fact that she hasn't done well there. What did you say? She took 10th at the games last year?
Yeah. And, it's just like very similar to Noah Ohlsen, right?
And it's a little weird because you got her moved up 2 spots, but yet the field's going to be deeper this year. So maybe you should have pushed her down 2 spots. I think you meant to have her in 12th. Did you double check that before you sent that over? I'm doing my math correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this too before we dig in. If Annie was competing, where would she be on this list?
Probably 3rd.
Wow. Okay. And she would just push everyone down below her.
Yeah.
And Haley Adams is like what we talked about at the beginning of the show.
And if Kristen Holta was on this list, she would be in the top 10 as well if she were competing this year.
Haley Adams has that what if factor, like if she moves the needle on just 1 or 2 things.
Yes, I mean we can start at the top.
Right.
There were lots and lots of questions and comments about the women's list for sure today. Hardly anyone had anything to say about Tia or Laura. I think that kind of understood that they're that good. Not to say that they're Laura could be beaten in competition for sure, but I think that's a lot of people feel like those are the top 2 right now.
Who do you think has more room to improve? Who has more potential to improve, Tia or Laura?
Probably Laura, just still a little younger, and I don't know that she'll ever be able to fix that specific kind of handstand push-up that she struggles with, but there isn't something like that Tia really needs to improve, so probably Laura.
And before we start, Brooke Wells, what makes you what we saw last year at the games looks to me, I'm no doctor, but to come back from that in a year seems I don't know, impossible. What is she saying? Have you talked to her? Does anyone know? Does anyone talk to her?
Look, she's back to snatching now, and she's posted about it a couple times that it's scary and it's unknown for her for sure. But I think she's got access to pretty much everything she needs or wants in terms of recovery and doctors and stuff like that. I think she's been. It seems from what I know that she's been really responsible in the rehab and getting back into the gym work that's required to recover from something like that. And very I think I already said, very similar to Jonne Koski. Like it might be a slow start to the season for her, but this was like a kind of a out of respect kind of a pick in the 10th spot because I don't think that it.
So is Katrin.
No. In this case of Brooke Wells, like if she hadn't gotten injured last year at the games, she might have made the podium. She probably would have been the fittest woman in the United States, even if she would have matched her performance from the previous year, where she took 5th in the COVID year of 2020, like that would have been her best games performance, in my opinion. And so she was on track to do that. Again, she's someone that has a ton of years of competing and is not that old. She's still in her mid-20s, and I don't know. I think that elbow had been bothering her for a while, and if she can get back to being healthy this year, she's definitely top 10.
And when you say bothering her for a while, I think you mentioned that when we were talking, I don't know, a year and a half ago, that you saw her do something on muscle ups, right? Pushing out at the top or something. She slipped off a ring or something happened. Is that where the original tweak happened?
Well, we don't know for sure, but there were I think if you went back and studied, you could see the breadcrumbs.
Could you go back to the mail list one more time? Sorry. Gotta ask you this. Tomorrow morning I'm having a guest on, and I'm wondering where he would be on this list. He's a team competitor by the name of Rich Froning Jr. Where would Rich be on this list?
If Rich declared that he was competing as an individual this year, the lowest I would have him ranked would be.
Make sure your front door is locked, buddy. You fuck this up, people will be at your front door in 2 seconds.
The lowest I'd have him rank is probably 3rd.
Wow. Could you put him at 1? Could you push Medeiros out?
I think the highest I'd rank him right now would be. Oh man, I don't want to do that to Justin. Justin's earned the number 1 spot, I think. But
understood. Well, let's let Bruce Wayne do it.
But it's also, I mean, look.
Hey, and let me tell you something else. Man, Matt's going to hate me for this. If I told you Matt was coming back, you probably wouldn't rank him as high, right? Matt seems like we don't even know what kind of shape Matt's in, right?
Well, it's very different. I mean, yeah, we've seen Rich competing. We know that he's not trying and he's still finishing he was 6th last year in the Open. Doesn't care about that. He's just doing the workouts, whatever. And
Jiggy, 20 burpees, buddy. 20 burpees for putting front for, and a couple Hail Marys, maybe 20.
Yeah, and Fraser's, he's working out, but he's not training. But again, if Fraser said, "Yeah, I'm coming back," I don't think he would say that unless he knew that he could compete to win.
Right.
And so then the whole conversation would be different.
Yeah. All right. So Froning would be number 2 or 3. Okay, I was distracted. Sorry, I looked down at my notes. Okay, back to the women.
It's a fun question. I appreciate that.
Caleb, we should probably clip that and buy life insurance for Mr. Friend. Okay, so we were talking about basically Brooke Wells, and you said something that was very interesting. Someone popped off in the comments too that it was a respect. Who's number 11? Who got disrespected on behalf of Brooke?
Well, I wouldn't say it's disrespect, but there were a lot of people who were very upset that Emma McQuaid was not in the top 10 on this list.
That's the Irish lady who won Wadapalooza, correct?
Yes. And I could not help but just laugh every time I saw this comment, not because she's not deserving of being in the top 10, but because I've been a proponent of hers for 4 or 5 years now when no one's been talking about her. And now suddenly she wins Wadapalooza and everyone wants to pump her up into the top 10. And, there might be some people who made those comments that are from Ireland or the UK or Europe and have known about her for a long time. But the more likely scenario is that even if she'd finished 2nd to Bethany Shadburne at Wadapalooza, which easily could have happened, there was one judging discrepancy that ended up being the difference between them. No one would have been making those comments today.
What place did Bethany take at
2nd?
She did. Okay.
Cost her $65,000.
Wow. What was that judging? The questionable judging. What movement was it on? Do you remember?
I think it was in the Dale event. It's either handstand walker or sandbag carry that she got. I think it was a sandbag carry. She got called back for still stepping on the line when dropping her bag or something like that.
Oh my God! How many points did Emma McQuaid beat her by?
I'm pretty confident if that rep had counted that Bethany would have won Wadapalooza.
Damn. Look at Caleb's going through and showing so there is a lot of love for Emma McQuaid. A lot.
And I love Emma McQuaid, and I've been a fan of hers for a long time. And, it is possible that people know about her before she won, I think, 20.1 in the Open that one year with the ground overhead and burpee workout. She's incredibly talented. She's been doing this a long time. She's a long-time training partner with Sam Briggs. She's phenomenal. I'll say in general, the women's field was harder for me to do than the men's field. And it was tough for me to keep her out. And it was tough for me to keep Danielle Brandon out of the top 10. But I'm confident with the list I put out in the end.
Can you make that the comments bigger again, Caleb? Someone said, how can you have Connor Saunders as 5th? When you read something like that, how are you do you just go, that person's an idiot? How you would have to go into you would have to be a mind reader to know what they're saying. Like, are they saying she should be 12th? Are they saying she should be first? Like, what? Like, you should just be kicked off of Instagram for that.
Yeah, I thought that there may be
what are you supposed to, like, how do you take that? You ask your Ouija board?
I thought there might be more comments about Kara in general being on this in that position on this list. I would assume that most people who are skeptical of that would think she should be lower. But last year was like literally the worst circumstance possible for her. She was not really wanting to leave her kid. She ended up doing it. She came to the U.S. She had a pretty decent training leading up to the games, and then she got sick and she was unable to compete. And I mean, we watched her the first day, and it was like, that is not Kara Saunders. And you've seen Kara since 2012 or 13 when she first showed up at the games, and you knew immediately that that was not the Kara that you're used to seeing. But when it is healthy Kara Saunders at the games, she's phenomenal. She's one of the best 10, at least, women who's ever done it. And, she was close to winning it twice. She had a couple setbacks over the course of her career, some injury, some heat stroke, some pregnancy. But it seems like she's motivated with her training. She's doing mayhem programming now. She's changed up her coaching a little bit. And I think that she's excited and motivated for the season. And if she is, I think she's fifth place is a good place in a power rankings, but she certainly is a threat for the podium potentially.
I was going to say, has anyone ever gotten closer to Tia than I guess Katrin?
Not since Tia won in 2017. No. And that was the year that she beat her by 2 or 4 points.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. What do we know? Have you talked to Kara Saunders? Is she going hard? I guess she doesn't.
Maybe we should invite her on.
Yeah, we should
check in with her. It's been a while. I think she's training hard. I think she's having fun and enjoying life. I think that's important for her. And I think she's gonna. She'll probably do really well in the Open. She usually does. And I would think that assuming that everyone who's supposed to compete in Oceania has to compete out there, she'll probably take second in the semifinal to Tia and be a legit contender in Madison.
Caleb, can you pull off those names? That's oh, thank you. Oh, it's getting fucking stressed out. It's getting a hemorrhoid. I do want to talk about Sarah Sigmundsdottir. I want to talk about Gabriela Migala here real quick. I'm nowhere claiming to be a student of the game like Brian, not even close. But if I were to say there were athletes who were getting noticeably better in the short time I've been watching their career, it's that girl. If it keeps up like this for 3 more years or 2 more years, we're looking at a CrossFit Games champion. Is that true? Am I seeing that anecdotally, that like this girl is just like for instance, and I hate to say that brings Sarah Sigmundsdottir, but we weren't super excited about what we saw from her at Wodapalooza, right? It makes us nervous again. It throws her into the deep unknown.
Sure.
Right. But Gabriela Migala, every time we see her take the field, we're like, oh shit, she better than the last time.
Yeah, she's had a phenomenal season, and people who have been watching for a while will have the same feeling as you, is that she's getting better and better. And the caliber that she's at right now, if she's able to continue improving, I think it's difficult to say that she'll be a future games champion, but she certainly has that potential. The reason why that's difficult to say is, one, we don't know how long Tia is going to compete. And it's difficult to see anyone beating her in the next 2 or 3 years if she wants to keep competing. But if, let's say, she does step aside in a similar fashion to Matt Fraser, there's going to be a big group of women that are suddenly going to be legitimate threats to win the games. And a lot of them are on this list, and a lot of them are really young, just like Abby. So yes, she has that potential, but so do 5 or 6 others that are right around her age and very much in the same caliber of athlete right now.
I don't know shit about competition, but from what I hear too, Gabby also has something up on everyone else. There is no doubt in my mind that people who've competed against Laura Horvath think that she's fucking unbeatable. There's a group of women out there, I'm sure, who see her just like they see Tia, like, holy shit. Gabby has a huge advantage over those girls because she knows Laura's human, because that's her boyfriend's sister. So she knows Laura's human. So she can mentally get her head wrapped around beating a Laura Horvath. But like, even those of us who watch TV at home, Laura Horvath does not it's a different horse. You know what I mean? You're
Yeah,
like,
and
hey, it's these ponies out there against the Clydesdale. I mean, Laura's just a different creature.
And they've gone head to head at several different competitions, so she has experience competing against her so far. Laura's continued to get the better of her more often than not. I think that Rogue Invitational was the first time that Gabby finished ahead of her, 20 points ahead of her, got on the podium and kept Laura off.
How did that happen? How did she beat her?
Laura got 19th place on event 6.
And what was that event? Was that is that the last
It
event
was
where
it was the chipper event.
Oh,
I can't remember. Oh, I have it right here. It was there's a lot of gymnastics in the middle, 30 strict handstand push-ups and 15 ring muscle ups twice.
okay. And in the games, and Laura has a fantastic engine too, right?
Oh yeah.
Man, and she seems mentally so tough and angry. Okay. So Gabriela Migala is strong. Haley Adams, tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, the Mayhem Empire on their YouTube station will be releasing a recap of their 2021 game season, all their athletes, individual team. It was directed by Scott Van Sloot and
Vandersloot.
I'm sorry?
Vandersloot.
Oh, Vandersloot, Scott Vandersloot.
Very, very talented.
And they'll be coming out. Is he a good athlete too?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think he's probably fit. Like all the media guys over there also train, but he's really, really good at what he does.
Yeah, I just heard that there was another camera guy over there trying to make
Ben Davidson.
Okay.
He will be competing this year.
Oh, okay. So this this comes out tomorrow. These guys are coming on the show tomorrow morning, by the way, for those of you who want to see the beautiful Rich Froning soon in 12 hours. In that documentary, you get to see Haley. Mm-hmm. And it's there. I mean, it's really just, I mean, you get to see her and Tasia's relationship. That's really cool. But the standout is, after watching the documentaries, that there were those two events. There's the clean ladder run. Am I saying that right? Clean ladder run. And they were back to back, one a lighter clean ladder and then one a heavier clean ladder. And basically that's what stopped Haley from, I mean, it wrecked her, right? What were her finishes on those two events?
25th and 33rd.
25th.
And if you think, like, you got to put it in perspective. So before those events, she'd finished 5th, 3rd, 11th, and 3rd. And she takes those two finishes. Then she has a 2nd, 8th, 3rd. So she's doing really well. And she had a pretty kind of a lackluster finish. She had 14th, 16th, 12th, 10th, and 4th. But there were a couple other, heavy implements that slowed her down in some of the workouts. Because keep in mind, in the back half there were only 20 athletes competing. So she was finishing in the bottom half of the field towards the end of the weekend. But I don't think that it has to, basically, the really heavy stuff at the games is her worst event finishes.
What did she finish at the games this year?
5th.
And how many points behind 4th? Can you see?
Yeah, she was 69 points behind Kristen Holte.
Okay. So even if she got 5th in those two events, she probably only moves up a place or two. She has work to do.
Well, the people ahead of her, Kristen Holte and Annie Thorsdottir, are not competing as individuals this year, so that leaves her 3rd. And it was I went back and forth between her and Gabby for the 3 and 4 spot for a while. I think that you're asking about like who has a more potential or room for improvement. I still think that Haley has a lot of room for improvement. And she's finished 4th, 5th, and 6th the last 3 years of the games. And I think her room for improvement is greater than any of the other women around her. It's
a tougher road to hoe, though, isn't it?
The strength
for Haley, yeah, than Gabriela. Gabriela is kind of like Saxon Panchik. She just has to move everything just like 1%, and it's game on for everyone. Where Haley really has like.
I don't want to say this in any kind of like. Don't misinterpret this, but if you're someone who's like a little bit more stocky built and you need to lean out, it's easier than if you're someone who's slender built and you need to bulk up.
Oh,
so Gabby had a little bit more of like that child like pudginess or whatever, and she's toned that down and honed that in, and now she's very, very dangerous and continuing to improve her gymnastics because of that. Haley has to put on the mass, and her body doesn't want to. She's just got a body type that doesn't want that. But when I saw her in Miami, she looked like she'd put on a little bit of mass. Her legs looked bigger to me than they looked even at the games. And that's, is part of the reason why I think that, she still has that next level to go to where she can challenge for and push for the podium.
I wonder if everyone over at the Mayhem Empire takes the same shit. Like everyone's like, they eat this protein, they take this creatine, they take this, you know what I mean? I wonder if it's like that at HWPO. I wonder if all those camps, all those dudes, like, I mean, I guess that's a little naive to think, because you have Guy, obviously, wherever he's coming from, South America, he's coming from Brazil, and he's taking.
He's probably, honestly, it's probably, it's a matter of sponsorships, right? And so, would you rather have everyone in your same camp under the same umbrella, or do you want to have the room for people?
Well, shit. I don't think you have to take the shit that sponsors you. You just have to pretend like you do.
Oh yeah, good point.
Right. Like Sarah Sigmundsdottir doesn't really drive a Volkswagen. She got a Ferrari. No, she really drives a Volkswagen. Okay, can we see the list again, Caleb, of the ladies, the powerhouses? Who's number 11 and 12? Who got left off this list?
Oh, we already talked about that. Emma McQuaid and Danielle Brandon were probably the next two.
Okay.
The others that I listed in the list that just barely missed were Emma Cary, Jamie Simmons, Karen Freyova, and Sarah Sigmundsdottir.
Really, Emma Cary, huh? Doesn't she have some monster holes? I mean, I want her to be on the list. Don't get me wrong. I like seeing the young girls on there.
Well, she had a little bit of a setback with a back injury in the off season, but she seems, she made this choice not to compete at Wodapalooza because of that. I think that was a good choice. I know that she's starting to feel better and better. I think that training environment that she's in right now down in Naples, Florida, with all the young guys, so Phil Toon, Dallin Pepper, James Sprague, Ethan Tate, and Matt Torres coaching them, is a good environment for her. And I really, in particular, think it's good for her because all of those guys are good and they're all good at different things. And she has the opportunity to train against Dallin Pepper, who's really good at this style of workout, and James Sprague is good at this style workout, and Phil Toon is good at this style workout. And none of those are women in her division that she's competitive with. So
are there any other women down there?
No. So she's the only one with a bunch of guys, and those guys are all really good, but they're all good in different ways. And so she gets to go against someone who's good with the heavy barbell, go against someone who's good on high skill gymnastics, go against someone who's good on the endurance events. And if Matt the coach wants to set that up for her, she gets that. Like it's, the ideal situation is like a Tia and a Matt, right? Where you're going head to head against the other person that's on the equal caliber of you. But maybe even a better than that is if you have a three-headed monster, you get to train against specialists or people who excel in three different fields. So I think it could be a really positive environment for her. And when I was down there and talking to her after Wodapalooza, she seemed like she was in a good headspace. I was really impressed with her. She came across very different to me in person conversation than she does like when she does interviews after events and stuff at competitions. So yeah, I'm excited for Emma, but I couldn't move her into the top 10. Like I couldn't justify it when I sat down and looked at everything.
And we know how these championship caliber women are. Like we've heard.
Yeah, that's critical.
They want to beat the dudes. They don't really care who they're competing against. Tia wants to beat Matt. At these camps, I'm sure she's just trying to beat these guys. Like fuck the scale thing. Like she's like, the bag is probably like 150. I think the story is it was 150-pound bag workout for men and 100-pound bag workout for women. Oh, Josh Bridges told the story. And then he went to go work out with Tia in the garage and he looks over and she's taking the 150-pound bag and he's left out the 100-pound bag. So then he's like, fuck. And he has to go over and get the 200-pound bag. And then she just destroys him in the workout. It's like, oh, damn.
Yeah. And I've told the story before about when I first met,
Brian, sorry, Brian. I don't mean to interrupt you, but someone said you look really hot, and so I'm like thinking to myself, I'm not seeing Brian as hot. But then I thought, but I always thought as a kid Tom Selleck was hot, and you kind of have a little Tom Selleck going. I'm thinking maybe this one.
I'll take it.
I'm thinking this one over here. That one is that? what do we? I typed in young Tom Selleck. Yeah, it's maybe this is nice. It's nice. That's a little longer than what you got going. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Look that way a little bit, Brian, or turn your head a little bit. Other way. Holy shit. Yeah, man, those eyebrows too. Wow. Okay. All right. So I'm starting to see you as more attractive each time you're on. That's good.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, Caleb. I didn't mean to
No, that was good.
cock slap your image, Caleb. Sorry. There we go. Okay.
That's a necessary and important segment.
I'm always coming on someone. It just happens to be Brian. Yes. Thank you. That was an important segment. Okay. So Emma Cary, back to Emma Cary. So we do. Well, like all these lists, we're bummed she's not on there, but she's in our brain. She's like clawing at the bottom, like, hey, don't forget about me. And you know what I'm doing? I'm working in the lab with Matt Torres. You know what I'm doing? Look at, I'm showing off my knowledge. Matt Torres. Got to get that guy on the show. What's going on, Souza? We getting Torres or what? He's Souza's fuck because I'm like, dude, no more CrossFit guests. I'm done with CrossFit. And then I just sent him a whole list of CrossFit shit. Like, except for let's just finish up here.
He loves it.
Sevan starts eating meat. Now he's intrigued by Brian. I was always intrigued by him. Amanda Barnhart. I don't know shit about her. I always just think of her as just a strong girl. And when she comes on the screen, my brain just turns off. And
This is a good example. This is a good example of what I said earlier in terms of my potential bias. We're surrounding 2019. I write about her. She's finished, by the way, 9th, 7th, and 7th the last 3 years at the games. Obviously, those 3 years were very different in their, the way they happened. But the same with Haley Adams, and the same with, we've talked about this in the past with Katrin David's daughter, and obviously with Tia and a Matt. It doesn't matter what the format is; they find their way to make it through. They find a way to make it happen. And Amanda Barnhart, in the last 3 years, has found a way to get into the top 10 year after year. And in particular, I said that doing so in 2019, and I've written and documented this before, the way that the scoring and the cuts were aligned that year, it was really difficult for bigger athletes, taller, heavier athletes to make it into the top 10. And the average height and weight of the top 10 was skewed by a statistically significant margin smaller. And she still managed to get up there. So she's proven that even though she, does come across at first glance or even in concept as someone who's good at certain things, she's good enough and well-rounded enough to make perennial appearances in the top 10. And I also would say the same I said about Chandler Smith. More consistent, long-term time at CompTrain, settling in there this year. It could be a really good year for her.
How long has Amanda been in the game?
I think she first showed up in the games in 2018, so she's made it 4 straight years.
And how old is she?
Amanda, she's got to be in her mid to late 20s. Let's see.
Here's the problem with
29.
Amanda. Here's the problem with Amanda. This is all I like when I think of her. This is all I see. This is my brain. I can't hold. What did you say? She's 17. She's 37. 29. Yeah. How can you hold it? She's not even human.
Yeah, but
look at her feet too. Look at her. Look at that. That's good, right? From a coaching perspective, she's completely open.
What's this position called?
I don't know. It's something she's doing a burpee or something. I mean,
yeah, this is a good position. Triple extension. So you think of her as someone who's going to win events and bomb other events, right? That's what your perception of her is?
No, I guess I think of her more maybe as a gi, the female gi, maybe I would think,
that's
short.
What we would say. So a home run hitter, she can do really well on certain events, and there's other events that can be. Her worst event finish last year was 21st. She had 2 21st place finishes, but you know who usually has a resume like that at the games? BKG. He's got many years where he's got one finish worse than 20th or worse than half the field. And that's what I'm saying. Amanda's more well-rounded than she appears, and she's very consistent and proven that she can do it at the game. So I think that she deserves a spot in the top 10.
Yeah, she is a who's the oldest in your list of these top 10?
Cara.
Oh.
Then probably Katrin and Amanda.
Okay. Oh my goodness, this is nuts. Okay, just one more.
Oh no, Amanda's 29. Yeah, she's a year older than Katrin. Yeah.
This is nuts. Look at this.
God.
Are you kidding me?
What? It's games athletes. Prime. That's what I'm saying. This is peak primed Barnhart.
Okay. How Sevan is always clueless about most of these athletes.
But his pronunciation was on point today.
Yeah, how are you so clueless about me, Miss Fitness? Okay. Let's go back to the list again. Cara Saunders is the biggest. No. I think this is a weird list because of these things. Cara, Katrin, and Brooke. I'm gonna add Cara to that list too. There's 3 really big unknowns. Why can't Sarah be in this
I'm
list?
just shocked
You're into
that you
the
haven't.
unknowns.
I'm
You're
just
into the
shocked that you
unknowns.
haven't asked about Bethany Shadburne.
She's good.
A lot of people have asked about her, and it seemed like a lot of people thought that this was way too high to place her, and I thought that was kind of strange.
No, I could even see her even higher. What did she take at the games last year? 4th, 5th?
No, she was unable to start the games because of COVID.
Oh, right. Oh, sorry. What did she take at Wadapalooza?
2nd to Emma McQuaid. We already talked about that on that judging dispute.
Okay, yeah.
So I think this is.
Do you think it's fair that people are tripping on how high she is?
I think it's I think it's great that people are wondering why. But I think that it's this is such an amazing thing. Annika Greer wins the Saturday Night Lights event at Wadapalooza, the signature event, the Celebrate 10 event. Lots of ring muscle-ups, handstand push-ups, and overhead squats at heavy load and then light load for a lot of reps. And she's winning that event has catapulted her into the conversation, the limelight, the sponsorship opportunities, and everything. There's another young woman there named Olivia Sulek who finished a few spots behind her, did very, very well, and almost won 2 events. She got 2nd on 2 events. I wrote about her in my Young Guns piece to watch for this season, but she didn't win an event. And because she didn't win an event, and in particular because the events that she did well on weren't the featured events, it was the Miami Bar Complex. She got 2nd coming out of the first heat, and she missed a push jerk that would have won her the event. But even if she'd won that event, it wouldn't have had the same effect of winning the Saturday night event that Annika won. I want to stay with this because I think this is important. And
yeah, please. I'm looking at pictures of her. She looks like she's 12.
Then she got 2nd place on the Dale event. But the Dale event was delayed because of rain for 4 or 5, 6 hours. And then they ran it at the same times as the men's heat, and really no one had any idea what was going on. And so there was no opportunity to highlight her performance in that event. Her second place finish of the weekend. She's only 18 years old. And that's just what happens. So now you see Emma McQuaid wins Wadapalooza. Everyone's on the Emma McQuaid bandwagon. Bethany Shadburne gets 2nd, and it literally might come down to an inch, a step, or a judging decision, however you decide to view that, of which one would have got 1st and 2nd. But if Bethany had gotten 1st and Emma had gotten 2nd overall in the competition, I don't think anyone would have been questioning her at 7th, and I don't think anyone would have been saying, come on, you have to put McQuaid in the top 10.
She has a nice accent, too.
But what I try to do is to take those things out of the equation. So I know how good Emma McQuaid is, and we projected her to be on the podium at Wadapalooza, and she was. And we know how good Bethany Shadburne can be, and we expected her to win, and she didn't. She got 2nd. But it didn't change my perspective of her, and I don't suddenly think Emma McQuaid is way better than Bethany Shadburne because she beat her by a small margin at an event.
Yeah, but she didn't even go back to the list. She didn't even make the list.
Emma McQuaid?
Yeah.
Oh, she's right there knocking on the door.
Well, I hear you. But
and for people that want to see Danielle Brandon on the list, why? Why do you want to see her on the list? She was 11th at the game. She was 11th at Rogue. She hasn't finished in the top 10 of a major competition recently. She's obviously incredibly talented, has tremendous potential, but you have to be able to put it together and do it. There's people that look better on paper and can't do the performances. BKG shouldn't be top 5 every year.
She looks better on paper unless it's like photo paper. No, she looks great on photo paper.
Yeah, but you heard when we talked to Kotler, he's like, she's one of the 2 women in the sport that doesn't have a weakness. And if we're going to go with that, then why isn't she finishing 2nd at the games?
My mom said that Danielle Brandon doesn't look wobbly. She's like, she's so strong. She's not wobbly like the other girls. I'm like, wobbly.
So Danielle Brandon's a great example. Her ceiling might be super high.
Yeah.
But she hasn't executed at that level yet. And so how can you expect me to place her, wherever higher than she's ever been or ever done?
Well, dude, you got fucking Brooke Wells on there, who we saw fucking arm do something that a human arm shouldn't do. You have Katrin David's daughter on there, she's waning. Hey, did I want to go back to Noah Ohlsen real quick and make a comparison here to Katrin's daughter and Noah Ohlsen. Did Noah Ohlsen have his worst finish ever last year at the games?
No,
he didn't. What did he finish last year at the games?
10th.
Okay, and what did Katrin finish last year at the games?
By the way, Noah's worst finish is 16th, and that was in 2016. And since then, his worst finish is 10th.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, so I think it's fair to say that if you're a betting man, Noah's career is waning.
Possibly, like he's only 30. Like people who think that Noah should be on this list, I'm not going to disagree with them. I totally understand where that's coming from, and it's certainly possible that he can make a run into the top 5 again this year. He is good enough to do that. But
dude, that team is too. Travis Mayer and Noah Ohlsen are old men in the CrossFit world.
They're not any older than Fikowski and Vellner are.
Also old men, grandfathers. And I'm suggesting that Katrin's waning also, where Katrin's
She's 28, 29.
I think Katrin's coming down and Danielle Brandon's coming up, and people see that. And so it maybe they haven't crossed paths yet. Maybe you're right. But I think that's another where people's vision gets blurred. Well, at least mine. Right. Because if you see someone getting better, you might think that they're better than the person who's waning. And I really want Brooke Wells to make a comeback, but man, that seems like quite the head fuck what happened to her.
Yeah, and there certainly will be a mental component of that. And maybe we get past the quarterfinals and I'll be like, you know what? No, there's no chance that Brooke's making it back this year. And we'll just move her off the list and move someone else in. Like that's what you do once the season starts. You make reevaluations. But I think that she's one of the 10 fittest in the world when she's healthy. And if she can get healthy by the games, I think she'll make the top 10 at the games.
Just so you know, Andrew, we're conflating some shit here, and I just want to be clear with you. I know you're joking, but I want to come to the defense of Brian here real quick. When we started the podcast, he wasn't saying this is how he thought people were going to finish the games this year. He said this list is fluid, Andrew, like your gender, and it will change after open. It will change after quarterfinals.
Probably not open after the quarterfinals.
It will change after semifinals. But basically, this is just who he thinks going in looks the greatest, and obviously, or has maybe the most potential. Because I even asked, how can Brooke be on there if we don't know if she's healthy? And Brian's making some leaps of faith here, some judgments here that even if we don't see the best of her at the open, we know if she can get up to 99% of who she was and make it to the games, then this would be that list. But he was very clear in saying these aren't his games predictions, even if they happen tomorrow. I hope that helped a little bit. I was getting a little scored.
No, if the games were happening tomorrow, my predictions would be very different than this list.
And these aren't your predictions for who are going to win the games this year because you admittedly don't have enough information. So I don't know what the fuck these lists are about. This is just so you guys have something to do on Tuesday night, Wednesday night.
No, I mean, look, in almost every sport, there's always power rankings, right? These are the top teams coming into the season. These are the top individuals heading into the season, whatever the sport is. And then as the season goes on, those things shuffle and shift and move around. And yeah, there's conversation because ultimately we want to, we're trying to see at the end of the season who's going to win this year. And so right now, this is the list. If you want to make the games, if you want to make the top 10 at the games, like this is the pecking order. You should knock these people off to have a chance to do it or measure yourself against them.
And finally on the list at number 6 is the great Mallory O'Brien. And when she takes the field, she is getting a lot of attention that she has earned because her performance is otherworldly for her age. I mean, there is a level. She has something. She has grit, and she has the no quit attitude, and fuck her body looks like it's unstoppable. Should she be 6? Man, she's so young. If Tia is proven, Mallory O'Brien is unproven. To know at no fault of her own, but she's about to be proven. She's about to fucking be proven. And
well, let's talk about Mallory O'Brien. So,
please.
7th place at the games last year, and is she the 7th fittest woman? I don't know. There were a lot of women who didn't get to compete. We know Cary Pierce, Bethany Shadburne, Cara Saunders, Sarah Sigmazotter, Jamie Simmons, Danny Spiegel were all missing from the games by the end of the games weekend. For some of them, never even started the season. So there's a huge.
How old is Mallory? Sorry, Brian.
She's 18 now. Okay. 17 or 18 now.
Okay,
probably 18.
Let's say 18.
Anyway, doesn't matter. Those people weren't there. She can't control whether they're there or not. She did her thing, and she did her thing really well. She had 2 event performances that were kind of bad. One of them was on the 550-meter run, which is, I'm not concerned about that being your worst event at the games. And the other was on the bike with the event with the Echo bike and the snatches. And then we come to Rogue, and I was specifically said before Rogue, I want to see how she does on the Echo bike, because she strikes me as the type of person who, if she leaves the games and she looks back and she goes, that Echo bike is never going to be the death of me again. And then she's just going to hammer that. Oh, by the way, she's training with Matt Fraser now, who's the king of that mentality. So I thought, okay, she's going to do better on the Echo bike at Rogue. And if you just look at her event finish on the Echo Burner, which was a similar style workout, she was 12th. However, she's only 6 seconds behind Tia-Clair Toomey, who took 7th on that event at Rogue. So I think that she actually, even though her event finish was, not great, her performance was better. And if she's, already this good, I think she's happy in the training environment she's in now. I expect that she'll be getting better this year. I was super skeptical about her last year. I saw her open finishes. I saw her quarterfinals finish. I was like, okay, hold your horses, everyone. Let's see how she does in live competition against grown women at a semifinal event. Well, she went there and she did phenomenal. And then I said, okay, that's great. But at that semifinal, there wasn't, some of the perennial top 10 athletes from the games at that semifinal. Ariel Lowen won it. Emma Cary was there. And actually the best person historically at the games was Christy Aramo O'Connell, and she didn't even make the game. She had to go through the last chance. So that was like, we'll see how she does at the games when the best of the world are there. And we know that in the case of the women, a lot of them come internationally. But she did great there too. So if you asked me a year ago if Mallory O'Brien would be one of the 10 fittest women in my mind heading into 2022, I'd say no chance. But after what I saw this year, there's no chance I can leave her off the list.
She's incredible.
Yeah.
She's incredible. When she finishes events and the way she walks off and her poise and her swagger, it's nuts. She got that Laura Horvath shit going, that Tia Toomey shit. That this is what I was going to say. She looks like she really believes in herself. By the way, one quick thing, Jiggy, Sevan, if Katrin Doder goes top 5 this year, would you wear her shirt? I would never disrespect her like that. She doesn't want to see me in her shirt, but I appreciate the question. Maybe I could do something else with her shirt, like give it to charity or donate it to someone. Me and I can't disrespect her like that. Okay, go on. Okay, one thing. Mallory O'Brien.
Her mindset is tough and it's difficult and you can't teach it. And that's what I, noticed about Haley Adams when I first met her. And that's what I've noticed about Mal and Emma Cary this year is they just have that. I mean, I don't even really know how to describe it, but a lot of
we don't got it
because we don't have it. That's right.
Yeah. Is adamant I feel about waking up and going straight to the coffee machine. That's how they feel about working out. That's all I got.
Yeah, it's I think that there are definitely, there's a lot. I think right now there are a lot of people that are trying to make more scientific analysis of the athletes and by doing so being more accurate in predicting how they might do. But there's definitely some intangibles in this sport that you can't quantify on paper or in testing. You can just see it if you watch them compete live. You can just see the way they look at the field or look at other competitors or attack a barbell or the way that they're breathing. And even though there's no, I'm not going to be able to write about every one of these people and what I've seen from them in person as a competitor in the sport, it is something that I think about when I'm, making these lists. It's hard to quantify.
Hashtag biased, healthy biased. Who were there any comments? Let me ask you the same question I asked about the males. Are there any comments in here that made you rethink the females? You were like, ooh, that's and it is definitely Emma McQuaid heavy.
Yeah, I think they're, and
that's the "what have you done for me lately" syndrome too. I mean, she just did win Wadapalooza, like you've said.
No, I'd ask myself. I wrote this list. I tried to ask myself the question, like, what would be surprising to people? What would people criticize about this list? And then I used that as a part of my research. And I was like, okay, if someone asked me why this person and not this person, why this person ahead of this person, could I give some kind of justification? It doesn't mean that I don't think the counter argument is valid. I mean, it's a sport, it's competition. Like, just because I have Haley 3rd and Gabby 4th doesn't mean Gabby's not going to outperform Haley this year. It could easily happen, and I want to be surprised. But based on what I know and based on what I've seen and based on everything that I considered, and this is, where I ended up, could I have, did I need to include Brooke in 10th? Maybe not. That's probably the one thing is maybe, but I don't feel badly about the fact that I did.
And don't think for a second that there couldn't be a virus testing that makes it so all of these girls can't go. Don't think for a second we've seen crazier shit happen. Today I went by a bus stop and there were 20 kids who were 12 years old masked.
There was a
30 yards from the beach.
You keep asking about these comments. There was a good comment. I don't know if it was on the Morning Chalk Up or on my own post, but Life of Josie, who does a lot of content creation in the space, particularly in Europe, asked me about Jacqueline Dahlstrom. Is that it? Yeah, and we had a little exchange with the guys from the program about this.
Before you go any further, what place did she take at the games last year?
Jacqueline, I think she was 19th, 18th or 19th.
Okay, so we have a little base of understanding
17th.
how good she is. Okay, Jacqueline. Okay.
Yeah, Jacqueline, very talented. She had a great semifinals in the online. I think she was second or third in her semifinal. He might have even said there in his, he says it there in his thing. Second at German throwdown. She was third at the Madrid CrossFit Championships. She was fourth in Dubai. Yeah, she's been great. And so I asked him, which of the women in the top 10? And he basically said, how could you omit her? And I said, well, which of the women in the top 10 has he beat in live competition? And I think that they were assuming I was saying she'd never beaten anyone on that list in live competition, when in fact she has. And they pointed it out that she beat Haley at the Reykjavik CrossFit Championship 3 or 4 years ago now.
3 or 4 years ago.
Right. And so I come back here and I say, correct. Yes, she did beat her then. And what's Haley's trajectory been then? Surely you're not going to say that Jacqueline should be ranked ahead of Haley. Haley was 18 then. She's 21 now. And she's had 3 consecutive top 6 finishes at the CrossFit Games, where Jacqueline Dahlstrom just came off her best ever finish at 17th.
I didn't like that person's response to someone said, can you scroll down a little bit? No, up a little bit. Sorry. I didn't like this. This isn't necessary. If you're going to come back, at least fact check. There's no fact. No. Be good.
No, and I don't know who runs Instagram for the program, but I'm a huge supporter of what they're doing. I think that John Singleton and that whole team is very, very good. And
that's the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And English is a second language to them. Okay. I'll give you a pass. All right.
But it's, but it actually, here, this last thing that I said is,
by the way, everything on social media that you see fact checked is fucking wrong. So there's that. Everything.
It was nice though. I wasn't upset about it at all, because we were able to have this exchange, and this is an example. Like, this is the type of thing that I have been looking at for the last couple of weeks in creating this list, and to see there's several women that aren't even on the narrowly missed list who I looked into and researched and thought about, should they be in the top 10? Should they, if they're not in the top 10, should I at least mention them here on the narrowly missed it? And anyone who follows the work that I do in the sport knows that there's 100 athletes out that haven't been mentioned on this list that I would love to highlight and talk about and have everyone know about. But this is the 10. This is the best of the best. And when you said after the men's, 8 of the 10 were the 8 of the 10 from the last year, and it's kind of a safe prediction, and it's probably similar for the women here. It's really hard to crack this group.
Tell me how old Jacqueline is again. Sorry.
She's a little older. I think she's 30.
She is, man. She looks young. And how much does she weigh? Is she small? Is she on the smaller side? Is she Mallory O'Brien size?
She's pretty small. She's actually incredible at high volume gymnastics workouts. She world class. Could win events at the games if the right workout shows up.
And she's a Craig Ritchie athlete.
A Hustle. Hustle is sponsoring her now. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, that's cool. Good on her. All right. Proud is an understatement. After 7 years. Oh no, sorry. This is something else. All right. I've definitely heard her name. She just doesn't pop on my radar a lot. It's hard to see, especially if she's 30. Look, everyone in their 30. Oh, and she trains with Gabriela.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say that already?
Yeah. And I trained with them before the games this year in Christoph.
That's right. I remembered that. Is that the team out there? And
they're Mallorca? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they're good, and they're getting better. I think Gabby and Jacqueline will both have really good years again this year.
Sounds like an incredible life, doesn't it?
Yeah, they were traveling around a little bit, but when we've talked about this before, when the first lockdown kind of came in. They moved to Mallorca. They got a place there. They started training there. And I was like, watch out for these people because this environment seems optimal. And there's a lot of people that are in suboptimal environments during that time.
Is Christoph trying to make the games? Is he?
I think so. He barely missed out on the semifinals last year. I think he's the kind of guy that'll be harder for him to get to the semifinals, but if he manages to get there, he has top 10 potential at a European semifinal.
I think of him more as just like kind of living this like gigolo lifestyle. It's like just hanging with like just hot girls who work out and like loading plates and shit.
He works really hard. He's very fit, very good, and I think if he can manage to get through the quarterfinals in Europe and get to a semifinal, he'll be fun to watch there because he's, he might not make the games, but he can be in the top 10.
And this videographer, this is the Armenian guy, Life of Josie.
I think so.
Can I see that account? God, he's everywhere. All right. Oh, yeah. And he's Craig Ritchie's. Sorry, brother, put you in a hard spot. Sorry, Josie, put you in a hard spot. Okay. Anything else we want to say? Great list. Thank you to Morning Chaga for letting us feed off your article. Great content. Thank you, Brian, for doing that and bringing it over here and letting us pick your brain. What is next for you, article-wise? What do you do next?
I have an article coming out tomorrow. It's called "Is the Open a Good Predictor for the Games?"
Oh, I like that. And
then Tommy and Patrick and Clark and I are doing an article, who can win the Open, which is pretty hard because there's a lot of people and you don't necessarily know, but we're going to give our best there. And then I have another article coming out next week that prior to the Open, that's going to be teams, TEAMS, to watch in 2022. And I've spent a long time and a lot of effort tracking down some of the teams from last year and then some new teams from this year. That
have all the teams announced themselves?
No.
Okay.
But, it'll
they
at least
kind of have to. You could do some detective work and know if they're not training together now, they're not a team, right?
Yeah. And it's, they should be training together already because the deadline for that has already passed by a month.
Will sent me a text today and it said, "Hey, you should tell Brian to put John Young as a co-author so he can like spread the heat around a little bit." I didn't think, did it stress you out at all, the comments today you were getting?
No, I was confident that there would be, opinions to be had and questions to be asked, but that's kind of why I put it out there because it creates conversation and it gets people excited about it. And, the more people that are interested, I think the better that it is.
Okay. And before you release that list, did you pass it through the DEI council? Did it get approval from the body?
You see my mustache here, Sevan? I do what I want.
Yes, you do it. Oh, let's talk about that really quick. When did you shave that right before you came on the show?
A few hours ago.
And did you mean to shave off your beard? Because sometimes I'm just like trimming it, and I'm like, oh fuck, I guess I'm shaving the whole beard off. Did you mean to shave the whole beard off?
Yes.
Did you think about it? Like today, was it annoying you? How do you come, or was it just like you got the shower, your shaver's there, and you just do it?
I mean, I've had a lot of different haircuts and facial configurations over the years, and I just kind of just know when the time is right type of thing. You do the same.
Yeah, but I don't give. It's usually like I'm just walking in front of the mirror. I'm like, oh fuck, I'm just shaving this off. And then if I kept that mustache, that would have never been the plan. I would have been like shaving, and then
I didn't plan to leave the mustache.
You didn't?
It just happened that way.
You're like, oh fuck it.
I actually did it. I actually did it just for you.
That's awesome. So it'll be gone tomorrow?
No, I think I'll keep it for a couple of days, but I did know we were doing this tonight, and I thought you'd appreciate it.
I really do appreciate it. All right, man. Thank you. Look forward to the articles. Oh, yes, finally. Thank you, Caleb. I would have forgotten. I have a website coming out, the Sevan Podcast website.
That's a picture you came up with?
I know. It's not, I know. I feel the same way.
There's I'll say it's not a bad picture, but there's some really, really good pictures of you out there.
I mean, what am I thinking right there? I look like I just got caught stealing
I think
a
you're
cookie.
like, fuck, they're taking this picture. I have a wedgie I want to pick right now.
Anyway, it's a really cool website. Go down to, oh yeah, of course, there has to be a merch page. Go down to the partners. I want to show you the people who made it. Yes, it's Kilo. Wait, is that who made it? Yeah. No, who made it? Click on one of those. Darn it, I wish I knew who made it. They're such great people. They were so awesome. Oh, those links don't work? All right, Caleb, fuck it. I fucked it up. Anyway, whoever made it, I got to give them. Oh, yeah, this might be them. Jim said it works. Shit, I can't remember. Those guys over there are so freaking cool, though. They're great to work with. I'm excited about the website. All right, Brian, thank you. Peace.
Thank you.